Scooby-Doo, Where Are You is actually just one of my favorite things in life. So let's talk about it. If you don't know already, this is the first of many episodes of what I'd like to call Phase 2 of the Scooby-Doo project. A series where I combine the film essay elements and the sports video elements and combine into one thing. And we're going to start with What a Night for a Night. This was the start of something special. It's the first Scooby-Doo thing I ever really got into. Now, I would compare it to watching Luca play in Europe for the first time. I was skeptical, but it kept me coming back. However, it must have worked out because I'm doing a project on this right now. So, let's get right into it. Our story opens up with a man driving a truck with a crate in it down the road in the middle of the night. And this guy is looking like Otto Porter Jr. on that Sack in the Fool clip when he doesn't realize that the knight in metal armor is getting out of the crate in the back of the truck. Like, how do you not hear that? Like, really? Like, are you deaf? The screen cuts to black and we meet our first two main characters, Shaggy and Scooby. By far the most important characters in the entire show. They are walking home from the movies where they saw Star Dog Ranger of the North twice, if I must add. They see the pickup truck from the earlier scene, but with no driver. They see the knight's armor and they get scared off when the helmet falls off. I have so many questions. First, why weren't they scared at the sight of an abandoned truck to begin with? Second, why weren't they scared when they saw an empty armor in the driver's seat? Third, why did the knight take the time to take his armor off and put it in the driver's seat? And fourth, why would you leave all that evidence with a chance of getting caught? I mean, this seems kind of stupid, doesn't it? I mean, Shaggy and Scooby do what most reasonable and responsible teenagers would do. They get their friends. Because the authorities are lame. At this point, we are introduced to the rest of the gang. Fred, Daphne, and Velma. And I want to stop and talk about something. There really is no backstory to the whole Scooby-Doo gang, when it first came out at least. Eventually we would see other variations of shows that would explain the backstory in more detail than this. But we're kind of thrust into the story. Like, do we know if this is the first mystery they've ever solved or not? That's a good question. If this was a show like Stranger Things, or a show that had a real backstory, I would have a major problem with this. But it's Scooby-Doo, and with this series, it's somewhat connected, but it's not really like a storylines type TV show. So I don't have a problem with us being thrusted right into it. But it would have been cool to see a backstory. Like, we don't even know if these guys go to school. So they get the name on the crate, Professor Hyde White. It doesn't get much more British than that. And instead of, again, calling the authorities, they take the knight to the museum themselves. They find out from the curator that Mr. Wickles, and yeah, his name's really Mr. Wickles, I'm sorry, it doesn't get much better than that. And Mr. Wickles tells them about a legend, / curse, or whatever you want to call it, about the Black Knight and a full moon, and you get it's not that interesting at all. It's really just stereotypical. But, and again, this doesn't matter. Scooby does find some glasses. He basically steals them from a statue. So that's always fun. Then the gang goes to the library to research these glasses because it's the 60s and Wikipedia is not a thing. They have the most iconic shot in the TV show, and they decide to break into the museum that night to search for clues. Like most teenagers would. However, the building is locked. I don't know why they would be surprised by that, because most museums lock their doors when they close down. So they have Shaggy jump into the building to let them in. They then split up and search for clues. Now let me tell you about Fred and his quote-unquote splitting up skills. They're just as bad as Jim Boylen's rotations. It's always Fred and Daphne, or Fred, Daphne, and Velma going one way, with Shaggy and Scooby, or Shaggy, Scooby, and Velma going the other way. I'm not kidding, it's always like this. There's no variation at all. And it's honestly the biggest problem I have with the show. Switch it up from time to time, Fred. It's the equivalent of your rotations being starters and then having the bench be a rotation. Stagger the minutes. Have Shaggy and Daphne be a group. Fred, go with Scooby sometimes. It's not that hard. Don't be Jim Boylen, you're better than this. Okay, hear me out. Jim Boylen was born on April 18th, 1965. Scooby-Doo was first premiered on September 13th, 1969. Now, there's two ways we can think about it. First way is the show was actually set 10 years before, so it's set in the 50s. And it would make sense because of the things that were worn in that time period. And Fred, later on in life, got a girl pregnant, and he's Jim's long-lost father. The more messed up way we can think about it is Fred got a 13-year-old pregnant, and Fred was 13 and got someone pregnant, and then that kid became Jim Boylen. That's actually really messed up, so let's get back to the show. And they do something that, honestly, I don't really need to explain that much. It happens in every episode. They search for clues and get chased around. That's kind of the whole premise of the TV show. Now, granted, if you're looking for something that has more substance to it, A, why are you watching Scooby-Doo in the first place? But B, just, you gotta deal with it if you want to watch the show. It's really what the show is. A majority of the show is finding clues and getting chased around by monsters. But speaking of the monster, I want to talk about this monster, the Black Knight. This is one of my least favorite monsters in the series. It's not that scary. It sounds like Max Scherzer after he gets a strike. The difference is Max Scherzer is probably scary because not only is he striking out my best batters, he's also crazy. But the Black Knight isn't that scary. Not at all. It just sounds like he has a cold, which is funny because even the show makes fun of it.
You sound terrible. I told you to take care of that cold. Lucky I brought your medicine.
My favorite scene in this episode was when Scooby takes one of the bones from the dinosaur exhibit and the entire thing falls. It was like when Terry Rozier thought it would be a good idea to try and dunk on LeBron with a trip to the finals on the line. Like, why on earth would you think that's a good idea? Now, granted, I wasn't mad at Scooby-Doo like I was at Terry Rozier when that happened, but looking back, it is kind of funny. So, the thing is, they get chased around and they have a little slapstick moments like they always do, like most cartoons around this era did. And they eventually catch the monster in the most obscure way. I can't even describe it. It's like trying to find an NBA comparison for Giannis or Zion. So, I'll just roll the clip.
Help! Zoinks! Scooby! We did it, Scooby-Doo! We did it!
Wait a minute. Moving on.
Just as we thought.
And it turns out the man is just a guy in a suit. I am shocked, as I was when the Warriors and Cavs were making the finals every year. And it turns out the Knight was just a curator. Actually, I do have questions. How was he able to fit in that suit? He's like smaller than Isaiah Thomas. Like, how could he walk? I'm overthinking this, aren't I? I am. Trust me. I am. What do I think about this episode? I think it was solid. Far from the best. Far from the worst. But like, watching a good TV show, watching something about a prospect, that intrigues you, it had me want to come back for more. Which I did. I watched the entire series. It was the start of something classic and timeless. It was like watching Giannis early on in his career. You saw the potential, but you wouldn't think it would be as good as it was based on what you saw in that time frame. I would give this episode a 7 out of 10. Or a Jaylen Brown out of whoever wears number 10, Darius Garland. Far from the best, but it was definitely the start of something special. But if you made it to this point in the video, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Follow my Instagram where I post some weird aesthetic pictures. Follow my Twitter where I say dumb things all the time, because that's always fun. Subscribe to my podcast channel. Links to everything I just mentioned is in the description as always. Share it with your friendly neighborhood generational talent. But don't give him money or help him move, because then you become a booster and ruin his NCAA eligibility. And have a great Thanksgiving.